Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the series of Fortunate Events podcast brought to you by who? She's been asking for over 50 episodes. It's still her. It's me. It's Mimi Terry. And today I'm joined by drag performer, host, and just gorgeous creature all around, Miss Mary Vice.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. This is like a date in the making for so long.
For years, I feel like.
I feel like my blue balls are like slowly releasing under my carriage.
I feel like this goes back to Oaklash like 2018 or something.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I took a year off. I think, and like this is the pod coming back. So yeah, and lots of things have changed in that time, and we are going to get into it. So first of all, I want to kick off with Baby Mary. When did you meet Miss Mary Vice?
Well, I have been Mary for 6 years, going on 7 years, something like that. I had been playing around with drag before that, but I'd been kind of like indecisive, like dipping my toe in the water, like, oh, I don't know. And I had a really long time trying to figure out a name, so that kind of helped me back for a while. But yeah, it's been about going on 7 years.
Lots of Halloween drag.
No, well, it was more like around New Year's. So I'm rounding up.
Yes.
But yeah, before that, I was doing theater. I started doing theater as a kid, and then high school, and then college. I was like a theater major, and I was like really like gung-ho, like I'm gonna be an actor. That was like all I cared about. And I like was living in Philadelphia. I was doing some acting, a little bit of theater. I wasn't really getting anywhere with it.
Yeah.
And I got kind of burnt out and disillusioned. And like, well, I guess I'll just never be an artist. I give up. So that's where I was at. And then
they don't deserve me.
Then I kind of finally dove into drag, and it was like, bam, like so much more fun, so much more work. As a drag queen, I found out that I'm a much better drag queen than I ever was an actor.
What would you say?
People wanted to see me more. I was offered more opportunities, and I was like, well, I guess this is the way I should go. So yeah.
When you say harder, what to you? What does that mean?
Harder. Wait, when did I say harder?
Because like that drag is harder than.
Oh no. I wouldn't say it's harder. But I think I'm a better drag queen than I was an actor.
You feel like maybe you're putting more work into it, and it's actually like you're getting out of it what you're putting into it. Oh
yeah. I mean, I'm just getting more work. Period.
Oh, okay. Like, okay.
Yeah, I think that's what I meant. Yeah, I mean, I just like, I got work as an actor, but I kind of felt like I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And then once I started doing drag, people were like, "Oh, come do this. Oh, come do that. Oh, da da da," and it just like, it just moved a lot faster. So,
well, yeah. You definitely have a stage presence. Like it's one of the things that I know for me as an audience member draws me to a Mary Vice number. And so connecting those dots definitely makes sense. Like, oh, duh. Of course, she commands the stage.
Yeah. I'm very glad that like I do have that background in theater, even though I'm not necessarily like trying to pursue that. I think it gave me a good basis for like understanding just being on stage and all that. Although now, like looking back, I'm like, if I went back and did theater now, I think I would be 1,000 times better now because I'm so much more comfortable on stage. It's second nature now, like I just do it so much more. So
yeah, you're comfortable with the stage. You're more comfortable in your skin. You're more comfortable with wearing different faces, literally. And so I think, it's not easy to slap on makeup. Don't even say that, Mariana. But I think, part of it is like, what is the essence that's coming out of you? You know what I mean? Right. And so sticking with the art of drag and working in drag and all that jazz, what do you miss the most of pre-COVID drag?
I miss the live interaction. I mean, for me, my favorite part of performing was always the like directly interacting with people. Like my
Mm-hmm.
favorite place to perform in the world is Aunt Charlie's, which for people who haven't been, it's like a tiny little dive bar in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. If you stand like this, you can touch both walls. Like it's itty bitty, and there's no stage. Like you come out from behind a curtain, and the audience is there. That you know, there's like a little clearing on the floor, and I love just like serving a song to someone's face that's 2 feet away from me, and like playing with the audience, moving from person to person, and you know, having that little moment with each audience member along the way.
Yeah.
So that I miss a lot.
Yeah.
And like
for sure.
hearing a crowd after you finish a number. I mean, luckily I live with other performers, and so like, you know, there's some life in the room, but like half the time we're performing and you know, you finish a number, you're all winded and you're like and silence. Like, it's so sad, you know, you don't get that like immediate like woo people, you know, during stuff. So
that rush of the audience's, you know, reaction, because I mean, for a lot of performers, they say that that's one of the bigger drugs of being in the entertainment field. So you've progressed into digital drag because of our not so dear friend CV19. You've done a fair amount of digital drag. What to you has been a thorn and a rose of this digital drag adventure, and do you have a favorite number of yours that stands out along the way?
I'd say for Thorn, I mean, it definitely has its own challenges. It is way more work than doing drag at a club, because I mean, before this we would always say, you know, drag performers, we have to be, you know, a performer, a makeup artist, a hairstylist, a costumer, you know, do all this shit for yourself and then go and perform. You know, it's not just those 3 minutes on stage. It's like all the time that led up to it. Now it's all of that work, plus you have to be a videographer, a editor, a sound editor. Like you have to do all of this shit just to make a number. So that, but I guess on the flip side, I mean, the kind of like video stuff that I'm doing is exactly what I was dreaming about doing before COVID. Like, and it's, I mean, if I could go back, of course, I would wish that none of this happened, right? But like, there is the silver lining that like, it was kind of the push that I needed to do something that I was already talking about for like a year or more before this. I was going, I want to make drag music videos. Like, it was like my dream. I was like, I can just see it, you know, like the cinematography, all of it. Good. And I never had the like, nothing like forcing me to do it. And I'm fucking lazy, so I never did it. But now, here we are, and I've made like 20 of them. So.
Which is like, if you were gonna pick a favorite one so far, of course we don't have a favorite child, but you know, the child that you're gonna take out to the movies on their solo date.
I feel like the earlier ones that I did were definitely like my favorites. It's been, I mean, we're like 7 months in now, so I'm like, what did I make in March? I'm trying to remember. But some highlights, I mean, I did a David Bowie number, the song Cat People, and I did like a Drag King beat, and I felt so hot.
Yeah.
And it's like a song that I've been wanting to perform for a while that I'd never gotten around to. And I loved how that one came out. So
well, the ones that live rent free in my mind are the Celine one with the
Oh my God. No, actually, that's probably my favorite. That is probably my favorite. I honestly, it's been so long, I'd forgotten that I did that video. But I did that duet with Zojab, and that's one of my favorite songs to perform of all time. I've done that as a duet with a few people now over the years, and it became a like recurring number that myself and Zoe would do at the clubs. So then, I was like, I have an idea. We're going to make it a digital thing. We like rehearsed and recorded remotely. It was a bitch to edit together, but it came out so good.
It was so good. And then the other one that's also lives rent free in my mind is the ABBA one.
Oh yeah. See,
that one was so
like
good.
I've forgotten about the things I did 5 months ago.
I mean, talk about editing.
That was a nightmare to put together.
So look, I'm sure it's on your ID. Mary plays every role.
Yeah, so it's not quite shot for shot, but I got as close as I could to doing the full music video of Take a Chance on Me. So it starts out with like the 4 squares. It was, I don't want to think about the time that went into that because I mostly edited it in one night, like the night before the video was due, of course. And I think it's like, it's not just that it's hard, like editing something, but you're also like, you're staring at yourself and analyzing yourself and your performance for hours on end. And it fucks with your head.
It starts to get a little shining in the head.
Yeah. 1 second. Percy is going crazy.
No, go ahead. Percy, you're crazy, dog. Snorty Pants Percy!
She was sitting over there chewing on her foot. She won't listen to me unless I really grab her.
And Craction, we have a new guest that's joined the podcast. She is on the agenda, but we will just introduce her now.
So this is Persephone. She is the daughter of my drag mother, David Glama. Glama is like in the process of moving to a new place. She's staying with a friend who has a new dog, so they're keeping separate, and I get to hang out with her all the time.
You have like, it's so cute. Yes,
She's
so
like
cute.
Actually my twin sister because we have the same birthday.
I thought that she growls as you say that. Well, Percy, we love you, and of course Percy is always welcome on the podcast. Well, actually, it's on my page right now. So, I was hoping, I'll follow the thread. Mariana, you wrote it the way that you did for a fucking reason. So I'm so proud, and I'm an honored patron of the channel. I'm so proud to see the progression of the collective Twitch channel that is Cash Monet's channel, but to me, it's the Stream Queens or Streamworks. Yeah. And, I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, I remember when there was a beginning that we thought there was going to be an end of,
Remember when we thought lockdown was going to be like 3 weeks?
A couple weeks. Watching you paint the bathroom. Were you wearing a jockstrap or like just really short booty shorts?
I was wearing a jockstrap and some booty shorts. It was like just barely Twitch appropriate. Like probably not actually. I was showing cheek, but
I think that was before they cracked down on the drag queens.
Yeah.
But so we go from there to, God's Little Princess teaching dance classes, and Cash kind of finding her way through the streaming, and you guys starting this like silly little show, Girl Talk on Fridays, which now has progressed into an amazing thing. But you also have on Mondays Glama's Pillows, and so I was hoping that you could fill us in and regale us with some of the stories of the relationship that you have with Glama.
Yeah, of course. So she's my drag mother, which I didn't really think I would ever have a drag mother. When I started out, I didn't have like one kind of mentor or anything. I had several people that I worked with, but there wasn't like one person. It wasn't until like 4 years into doing drag that she became my mother. So backstory, I lived in Philadelphia. I moved out here 2016, and I met Glama just out. It was when Club Something was still going on at the Stud, which is like one of my all-time favorite drag shows. So she was a big part of that. So I would see her there, saw her on stage, and then mainly we got to know each other just like at Powerhouse, like hanging outside the bar, smoking, sitting at the bar, chatting. And she just, early on, like took an interest in me, like offered me, some gigs and was like, oh, like, come over, let's have coffee, let's chat. I think she was kind of halfway hitting on me, but she also liked my drag.
How incestuous.
Well, she has a rule. She says, I do not sleep with my children,
Good.
but if you're my grandchild, watch out.
Well, exactly.
So no, when I moved out here, I'd been doing drag for a few years already, and I had kind of like, found myself as a performer. I felt, decently established. I didn't really think that I would ever have a drag mother or a drag parent of any kind, because I was like, it would have to be like a real thing, like there were people I was getting to know, and one or two people even was like, oh, do you want to be part of my, and I was really like standoffish about that, because it's something I take very seriously.
Yeah.
Like I was like, if I'm gonna have that, it needs to be like a real relationship and a real mentorship kind of thing.
Yeah, of course.
And our relationship very quickly turned into that. So after a year or two of us knowing each other, it finally happened. So it was like one night, we had been kind of talking about it for a while. At one point, Glama said if I wanted to be her daughter, I would have to wrestle Juanita Moore. That never happened, luckily. I think Juanita would kick my ass, honestly.
I think Juanita's got you on that one.
But yeah, one night at Powerhouse for Pillows, because that's where the party would normally happen in person. I forget what, I was in the show. I was in that show almost every week. I was there every week, if not performing.
Yeah.
I forget what I performed. But after the show, she was like doing the curtain call, bringing everybody up on the stage. And she was like, oh, and by the way, here's my new daughter, Mary Weiss. I was like, okay, it's official. There we go. So I was 4 years into doing drag, and it finally happened.
I love it. I love these stories of, these drag houses and drag families and how they come together, and they're such unique stories. And, so not only do you have Glama as your drag mother, you live in what I call a drag coven house, because to me, anywhere where there's 3 or more drag queens, it's a coven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somebody asked me recently if I have a drag house, and I was like, I don't have a drag house, but I have a drag household.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about the power of 3 that gives it the extra kind of witchiness. It's like the witches of drag, of drag wick, whatever. But what has been, kind of like a fun part and sometimes maybe a challenging part of living, in a house full of drag queens?
Well, this is my third. So I've lived with Cash Monet for 3 years now, I think, something like that. So we first moved in together along with Florida Man, and the 3 of us lived together. That was my first time like living with all drag queens. And it was, chaotic and fun. And
was that the place with the giant mirror?
Yeah, we still have that mirror. It's in our living room. Yeah, so we lived like across the street from the Stud, which was it was crazy. Our house was like the after party spot. It was chaotic. It was wild. It was fun. Then me and Cash moved into another place in the neighborhood, and we lived there for like a year and a half, I think. And then finally, me and Cash moved in with God's Little Princess here. And I think it's really great. I mean, it's nice to live with people that are into the same thing you're doing. Drag performers can take up a lot of space. So it's nice to be with people that understand that, and they get, like, oh, I need to build this giant prop in the living room. Sorry, I'll clean it up tomorrow after the show. So it's nice to have that understanding with people. And then, I cannot overstate how lucky we are to have moved in here. We moved in 2 weeks before shelter in place began. And it was just like the absolute, I wouldn't want any other situation for like being in quarantine this long. For one thing, I think the 3 of us have like a really good balance of personalities, and like we work together well. This place is big enough. We have like personal space. We can get away from each other and not have to like ask for it.
Yeah.
But then also just like on the practical side, I mean, living with Cash is a godsend during this time. Cash was already doing some streaming before all of this. She kind of knew how Twitch worked. Cash is also a professional videographer and photographer. So she has, you know, backdrops and lights and cameras and everything that we could possibly need to do online drag. So we kind of hit the ground running right away. Yeah, so I'm so lucky.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing. And so speaking of this digital drag world that we are now living in, I also think it's amazing that what started out as a silly quote unquote talk show has developed into like a socially conscious political chat show. And I love it.
Yeah. Well, I like to think of a good balance. So like, okay, so the backstory, myself and God's Little Princess. So the first month or so of quarantine, we were really just trying out different stuff. Like we knew we wanted to stream, but we were just kind of throwing ideas at the wall and see what stuck, right? So like, I mean, I wanted to redo my room. So I advertised like, come and watch Mary paint. Of course, people assumed I was going to paint my face. And then I showed up fully in drag with the paint roller painting my room. That just makes me so happy. So, you know, I was doing like, you know, home renovation streams for a while we like repainted the place. We did a couple of makeup ones, but I don't know. I never cared too much about doing like makeup videos. I don't know. I'd rather just be in drag and then do something.
Yeah.
So we did that a little bit. Of course, Cash has been gaming on stream this whole time. Trying to think of what are the other like things we tried out before we kind of settled into our routine. But eventually, you know, me and God's Little Princess had been talking for a while about doing some kind of like chat show, podcast type thing. And then at the time, like there was like a couple weeks where like every night we would end up, it would be like the three of us hanging out in the living room, and then Sarah Slay like on FaceTime hanging out with us like all night. Like it was like every night we would end up on FaceTime just chatting for hours. We might be like watching TV, but we're like, oh, what'd you say? And so like that, it was just like a natural fit that, you know, when we did our first talk show, a stream, Sarah Slay was the first guest, and then she was like, can I just be part of the show? And we're like, okay, fine. So then, yeah, it was, I think after that, Nikki Jizz was our first guest after that. And we've just kept it up every Friday since then. We started out like doing more of like an outline thing, like, okay, these are what we want to talk about. Now, for the most part, we book people that we know can just talk unprompted.
Yeah.
And keep it up. And we stay on for 3 hours for the most part without a plan.
Yeah.
And it just rolls and goes. And it really has grown into this really cool thing. I mean, it started with us just kind of talking shit and talking about pop culture and whatever. And now, like, I mean, it gets very political. We're always talking about, you know, whatever's going on in the news, XYZ. Now Sissy Slays, who's staying with us, she is a regular part of the show, and she's brought a whole new energy. She's been bringing on most of the guests that we've gotten recently, so that's been cool because it's bringing in people that I don't necessarily know.
Yeah.
Just different perspectives and stuff. I love it because I think it's a nice balance of like, you know, serious discussion. We're talking politics and XYZ, but it also, I love that it is very informal and it's very like unfiltered.
Yes.
And we are kind of like figuring things out as we go. Like none of us are authorities on anything other than our own experience, right? So we're talking about issues and stuff, but it's like we're always kind of like, do you know about this? Here's what I think. I don't know. And I think a big strength of it is, you know, people like politicians, public figures are kind of like beholden to certain interests or certain, you know, there's certain things that they can talk about and things they can't talk about. There's things they have to be polite about. But I think it's really important to have, you know, drag queens who don't have to answer to anybody who could be like, that's bullshit. I hate that. Fuck you. You're cool. And just like let it be raw and like, you know, just be that. So I love it.
Drag is inherently political.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, I love it. And continuing on this, like, oh, we're living in COVID. I'm curious what you think post-COVID drag will look and feel like. I feel like we're already starting to get some previews of it, depending on if there ever is going to be an actual post-COVID. You know, drag is starting to go outside now. You know, the Port Bar has their outside shows. Oasis has their outside shows. I worry for them because come the winter, those are going to have to shutter down again. So I wonder, you know, I feel like digital will probably become part of the gig.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is really cool. Like the online stuff is really great. It makes drag accessible to a lot of people who couldn't go to shows before, whether it be because you're under 21 or you don't have an ID for, you know, any number of reasons, or just accessibility issues. You know, people who can't be in large crowds, or maybe the building isn't accessible to everybody. So I think it's really cool that it's like opened up and you can watch a show that's happening anywhere in the world. You can book a queen who's from anywhere in the world. Yeah, so I think that some form of like the online drag is just gonna stick around from here on out. I don't really see it going away.
What do you think about the in-person shows?
I have only been to one. I've been really hesitant about going to any, like, I don't really like go out and like sit places to eat. I get kind of nervous when I walk by people eating on the sidewalk because I'm like, okay, your tables are 6 feet apart, but you are not 6 feet apart. And now I have to walk in between two big groups of people, and I'm 2 feet from everybody. So I usually just walk out into the street and avoid the whole thing. I did go to one at Oasis, and I think they're doing a really good job of it. They have their parklet like on the street, which is, you know, it's a wide enough sidewalk that it's easy to keep a distance. It's a big enough space that, you know, people are spread out. And then they have the rooftop, which is where I sat. And there's only like 5 or 6 tables up there, and they're really far apart. They have, like, during the show, the audience all has to have their mask on so that the performers can, you know, move around the space. And it seems like they're taking the proper precautions to make it, you know, reasonable and good.
Yeah.
So that's great. I'm like happy to support them.
Yeah. I wonder, you know, I feel like Oasis is a place that could do that. You know, come the winter, they just set up tarps on the roof, and they can still, you know, set up, you know, they can still have their parties. I mean,
outside. they have those like heaters up there anyway.
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
winter.
Well, this is where we end the Barbara Walters part of the show, and we go into the Andy Cohen part of the show. Hey! Bring out the whiskey and blow. Oh, wait, did I just say that? But speaking of Andy Cohen, this is a classic game, classic as in Series of Fortune Events classic. I haven't played it in a long time, and I thought this would be a fun one to pull out for you, and it's Go to Bed Wig. And we basically, a political edition. So I'm going to name off political folks, and you're going to either tell them to go to bed wig, or they can, and then this has always been the fun part to see what people choose. The other one is like a positive, like you like them, they can come to the party, or, you know, they can come to the gig, or like, you know, but go to bed wig is like, get the fuck out, basically. So, Go to Bed Wig, political edition. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, aka AOC.
Come to the gig. Come hang out with me, please. I love her. She's great. Yeah. I mean, okay. First of all, I want to preface this whole section with I'm not a political expert. Whatever. Neither
am I, and that's fun.
I also want to say, like, I've said this on our show a bunch, like, I don't stan anyone. Like, I never want to, like, unquestioningly love somebody, because then you just end up absurd and you're defending crazy things.
Idolizing them, and, you know, we already know about false idols.
Or someone who is working in a fucked up corrupt political system where, of course, you have to make compromises and no one can be perfect, she is doing a fantastic job. I love what she stands for, and I love how transparent she is with people about the process. She's always like on her stories, on live, walking people through, this is how Congress works. Because most of us don't know. I don't know shit about it. So it's really cool to have, you know, a millennial, a young person in the building being like, this is what the process is. So I love that.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. It flashed in my mind when I was watching the debates that they both have, you know, specific pins. And I remember her mentioning that everybody in every class gets a specific pin because it's like an identifier for security reasons. And I was like, oh look at the pins. Yeah. And so like every year, you know, the pin changes. And so it's like an easy way for like security to know if you like belong there or not. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, next in Go to Bed Wig, Political Edition, Ted Cruz.
Go to bed.
Go to bed, Wig.
Mean, he's a joke. I don't know.
Go to bed, Wig.
It's like, yeah. I feel like he just said something stupid the other day. I try not to pay attention to people like that. Yeah. I don't want to give him any more energy.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I pay just enough attention because you gotta know what the other side's ammo is. Right. You know, and also to not stay in your own bubble.
Right. Yeah.
Pete Buttigieg.
He can go. I don't know.
Girl, bye.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm no political expert. I don't know like everything about his history and anything, but just during the primary, he just was never very inspiring to me. And I feel like we were supposed to like him just because he was gay, but like he never said anything that I was excited about.
Yeah. And he always felt a little try-hardy.
Yeah. And like, I mean, there was also like pretty like bad stuff from his record about, you know, he was a mayor of a town that has a large population of people of color, and like I am inclined to listen to them and their opinion of him.
Yes,
and
of course
there was some pretty negative stuff. So
yeah. Miss Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany.
She's the current one. Again, I'm no expert. I did not know that, but
yeah, she's the blonde one that she's the only one that like is actually gotten good at lying with a straight face.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you know, I try to have compassion for everyone. It must be a really hard job to stand up there and every day do these press briefings and try and like present what's going on in the White House as some sort of sane reality. So bless her heart.
You're so nice. You're so nice. That's very Southern of you. Bless your heart, Wig. Kamala Harris.
It's like, it's iffy, you know. I mean, I have heard some things about her record that I really cannot get behind, like, you know, sending trans women to men's prisons, being, you know, a higher up in the prison system, you know, criminal justice system, period, yeah.
I know, and she tries to paint it as like she was doing the best she could with the system that she had, but I feel like she leaned in a little too hard into said system.
Yeah, and there's stuff about, you know, harsh sentencing for marijuana offenses and being, you know, a supporter of FOSTA SESTA, which has, you know, ruined lives. It's like made life hard for people that I know and care about, you know. Making it harder for sex workers to live.
So go to bed, Wig. Nancy Pelosi.
I will be voting for her.
Of course.
But only because, you know, we're in the system that we're in.
Of course. And, you know,
I would love for her to surprise me. You know, like I've been hearing some more stuff recently about, you know, like Biden's policies kind of reflecting more of the like left-leaning things that we were pushing for in the primaries. I would love to be surprised by their administration.
Yeah.
I'm not holding out all my hope in the world for it. I think there's going to be a lot of work to do under their administration.
Yeah.
But I'm here for them making progress.
I think it might have been like on a Twitch drag show or something. I think it might have even been Girl Talk, that I can't remember who it was, but somebody in the comments in the chat said, I can't wait for Biden to be elected so that we can protest his policies.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Because that's the thing, we can't take our feet off the necks because the head changes. No, we got to keep our feet on the neck.
And I let up on being critical of them. I mean, now it's like, you know, I think we should put energy into trying to get them elected. But someone who we had on Girl Talk before, Yehevid, she made this post. She was like, it is imperative that we continue to criticize these people and talk about the issues, because you never tell someone, I'm going to vote for you no matter what.
Yeah.
You never give someone that power.
No.
Like, I think it is a good idea to tell them, hey, we are the Democratic base, the left-leaning base, and this is what we want. So represent us so that we want to vote for you. Like, I think that's perfectly a good thing to do.
And I keep saying that both her and Biden need to get a little bit more messaging out there beyond "we're not Trump." Like, we know you're not Trump.
They need to present policy and plans, because it seems like that's all the messaging we're getting.
And it's not enough. And the people, you know, the young disaffected people that don't show up because they don't want to go for either side because they just see two piles of poop, like, they're the ones that are going to need to hear some of that. And those are the numbers that we need to turn around. You're not going to turn around the Trumpers.
It's not going to bring anybody from Trump's side to say, I'm not Trump.
That's what I'm saying. You're not going to win any Trumpers.
I am something good. Here's what I can accomplish. Exactly. And then someone might go, oh. I mean, I think his supporters are so dug in that it would be really hard to turn somebody. But if you could present a better alternative and say, here's how we can make your life better. Yeah. That's what's going to move people.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's something just kind of floated through my mind now, because sometimes I think, like, for example, you know, a quiet group that you might be able to win sometimes is like the Republican wife, right? Because they present to their husband that they're going to vote one way, but maybe when they go in the booth privately, they vote another way. But now with, like, people voting at home, can you imagine, like, if you were at all thinking of, like, voting different than your partner? Woo!
Yeah.
I don't know, honey. No. I'm gonna go in person. I'd rather go in person. 4 more people on our go to bed wig. Nancy Pelosi.
Go to bed.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like, I'm no expert on policy. I don't know everything she's ever done, but currently, I just am not getting anything from her that makes me confident or excited about her as a leader. I don't put everything on her at all. But the fact that it took 3 years for them to even move towards impeachment, when Trump did impeachable things day one, like, he wouldn't let go of his business interests. He wouldn't let go of his business interests. That alone, from the start, done. You should have been impeached from the beginning. And he has broken the law every single day he's been in office. There's been a new scandal every week. And even when they did the impeachment, they didn't go after everything. They kept it very limited. I'm like, there's so much evidence. There's so much things he has done out in the open he hasn't even hidden that are unconstitutional from the beginning. So come on.
I know. Yeah, she's another one that it's like, just because you're not like Trump, that's not enough.
Yeah.
You know, talking shit about him and all this is not enough.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything for me if you're not backing it up with action.
Exactly. The second in command, Mike Pence.
Oof. He's like a fucking I don't know. He's like some like movie villain. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, he's like a proponent of like conversion therapy. His policies led to a massive like HIV spike in, was he a governor? I forget where he was.
Is it in Indiana?
Yeah. So a huge outbreak of HIV, like rampant in his state, like just
Go to bed,
no.
Wig.
It's like if Trump is the like new wacko, like gonzo version of conservative, Pence is the like old school evil version. He's like, I'm gonna play by the book and I'm gonna be as insidious as possible. Trump is throwing the rule book out the window and being evil. It's just like,
I know. It's like I feel like Mike has been the one that's like kept it enough on the rails so that it has been able to stay on the rails.
like if Trump is Darth Vader, Pence is the Emperor.
Yes. Well, speaking of, what about Trumpito?
Girl, I don't need to answer that.
Yeah,
I like try to think and talk about him as little as possible. I mean, not in a ignoring the situation way, but it's just.
I get it.
What can you say?
I know. and our now Democratic nominee, Joe Biden. I think he needs to take a nap to get himself energized enough to do what he needs to do.
I don't want to be ageist because I love old people. I love, like, my favorite people in the world. I love to hang out with, like, any old drag queen I can find. Please sign me up. I do not think that the people that are running our country should be 70 and up. They just shouldn't. And it's like, it's not an ageist thing. It's just, you don't represent the people anymore. I was reading statistics. I don't remember all the exact numbers, but I think the average age of people in the United States is somewhere around like 37. And our presidential nominees are in their 70s. And our senators and congresspeople are all like way up there in age. And it's like, you all are making decisions that will affect life that you will not experience.
Exactly.
Like, you're not going to be around for, like, I mean, they're around right now for the effects of climate change that are happening right now, but like, you're going to be gone before the sea level, swallows Washington, D.C. So of course you don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wish there was like younger, fresher energy. And with Biden specifically, I've been saying since the primary began, he just is so uninspiring.
I know.
To me.
I know.
And he has like sketchy things in his record. It makes me hate the DNC that much more. That, there were these stories about sexual assault that were just swept under the rug. And it's like, how can you, as the Democratic Party, claim to hold any moral high ground if you're not going to pursue this? At least look into it. Like, just wouldn't even acknowledge it. So Joe Biden is totally uninspiring to me. He has done nothing for me on the campaign trail. Watching the debate, I watched literally about 5 minutes of it and I had to go. But it's like, you're up against Trump and you still can't inspire me. Like, I will be voting for him, and I want everyone out there watching to vote for Joe Biden. Please do. Please. I think the only way we can get through this election is with a massive landslide of the popular vote. There needs to be absolutely no question. It needs to be like unprecedented voter turnout. Let me be clear. Please vote for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
With that said, he's totally uninspiring. I'm not excited about him as a leader, but I think it's our only way out at the moment.
It is. And it's sad that it's Spider-Man meme pointing at each other in regards to like candidates with sexual assault allegations.
I think there's all sexual assault should be taken seriously So it's weird to talk about degrees, but I think there's like a massive difference in the two. Like Trump, there's like evidence of him being a pedophile rapist.
Yeah.
And like having those connections to Epstein, it's like so deeply, I mean, seeing the things he does out in the open, I don't want to imagine the things he does in the dark.
I don't want to
Joe
imagine
Biden, that story with Tara Reid is really fucked up, really gross. He assaulted an employee who he had all this power over. It's a chop. He should be done, period. So it's weird to talk about like degrees of it, but there is like such a massive like tilt one way.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost at the end of this little show. Now we're going to have speed round. Same questions for every performer. They started out inspired by drag performers, so it's always fun to keep it drag themed. And I think it's interesting to see me break my brain when I try to adapt it for other people, but I think it's become part of the charm. So how long does it take you to get into the gig/lyric?
It takes as long as I have. But usually I'd say about an hour and a half is good for me to feel like not too rushed. Like, yeah. I'd say like a solid hour on makeup. I can do this.
Yeah.
And that includes, a half hour of wiggle room for like getting all my shit together, shaving, and then, getting dressed and all that stuff after. So
yes.
Hour and a half is good.
Yeah, for sure. I've gotten kind of like what I call my podcast face down to like 30 minutes.
I used to, when I first moved to San Francisco, I was doing the most minimal makeup. Like I didn't start doing like drag makeup until like 3 years into doing drag. So I used to do like a half hour face.
Yeah. But looking at you now, I'm like, man, I really should put a little bit more time into it once in a while. Tips for drag fans.
For fans? Like to be a fan?
Well, like, so for example, when we were in person, don't be handsy or, don't go on stage and try to dance with the performer when you're not invited, like that kind of vibe.
Well, as far as online stuff, I mean, any support helps, At the start of the online drag situation, it was bringing in a lot of money. Like, I think it was, we didn't know how long the situation was going to go on for. And people were like, oh, the club's closed. Like, we love our performers. Like, let's take care of them. And there was like money coming out. Like, those first handful of shows were really nice.
Yeah.
Since then, as it's sort of normalized, like these online shows, except for a select few, they're really not making a huge amount of money. It's for the most part, doing it for the love of it, just like we were doing at the club for the most part.
Yeah.
You'll get those special gigs every once in a while where you make a couple $100, and that's nice. So any support you can give is really great. I'd say, here's a weird thing as far as like tipping with online shows. I feel like when people are sending like a Venmo tip, they feel like they have to send like $5 or $10. And I think that actually leads to people tipping less because they think they're supposed to send more. And so then they just don't because they think they can't afford it. But like, think of it like being at the club. You can literally send $1 like you would do at a show. You might tip one.
That's me. I'm a $5.
And I mean, I like to do that too when when I am watching a show and tipping. But I would like to, not that I want people to tip less, but I want people to know it is perfectly fine to send $1 to each performer. And you won't break the bank for yourself. And that added up, say if there's 50 people watching the show, then that's $50 that you're going to make on the number.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like people are they're in that weird space. So you end up with like a couple people sending you $5 or $10 and you maybe make like $20.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want people to know it is perfectly fine to tip $1.
No, Mary
And
said
do
it.
it. You can like it's an easier threshold to cross, so I want people to know it's okay. And so then I think that will actually generate more tips coming in.
No, I think that's a great tip. Tip for baby queens.
There's well, my go-to tip for people who are like considering getting into drag is you will never be ready. There will never be a right time. You know, I know so many people who have like hemmed and hawed about it. I did it for like a year or two. Literally, you'll never be ready. So just dive in and work with what you got and see where it takes you. For baby queens, for people who are already performing, just like, it's a really fun and special period of time when you're just starting out because there's like so much more, everything's new, right? So there's so much more energy. So savor it, enjoy it, take every opportunity you can get. You know, I would say be humble, but like, no, feel your fantasy. Like, let yourself believe you are it. You are the most beautiful being in the world and live in your fantasy. Go for it. Don't be a dick, but like, you know, get into it.
Don't be a cunt, but be a bitch.
And like, don't be too fast to pigeonhole yourself. I feel like nowadays every drag queen is supposed to have a brand.
I was gonna say,
whatever. And like, girl, just don't worry about it. Just do whatever inspires you at the time. Know that you can always change it. You can change your drag name years into doing drag. Like, don't tie yourself down.
Hello, Florida man. Florida Elizabeth man.
I mean, Beverly Chills used to be Beverly Kills. She was doing drag for like a year or two before she changed it.
Yes.
And if she changed it tomorrow, I would be happy for her. Go for it.
What was it? Bob. It was like a kitten with a whip was Bob the drag queen's first name.
Oh yeah.
Favorite drag race queen. Speaking of drag race.
Favorite drag race queen. I don't know. I have like just kind of in the past year or so like gotten re-interested in Drag Race. Of course, when it started, I was obsessed. I like first saw it, I was in college. I was like at a friend's house and we just happened across it late one night, like at 1 a.m. and we're like, what the fuck is this? This is amazing. So like, I will always love the early years queens. Like, I mean, some of my favorites from early on, like Jujubee. I was so happy she was back again for All Stars because I'm obsessed with her.
Yes.
Who else? I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. There's way too many. But then, you know, for like years, I kind of like lost interest. I didn't have cable and I didn't care enough to seek it out. So just recently I've like gotten into it, really only because my friend was on the show, so I had to watch it.
I mean, I figured you might say rock, but I was like,
of course I love rock. I mean, fucking Jada Essence Hall is like everything.
Sickening.
Like, she's so beautiful. I can't wait to watch the Fenty fashion show.
Yes.
Like, she's in it. Gigi, a bunch of people. So.
I'm sure Naomi too, right? Because Naomi's been like big with I think Naomi was one of the first Fenty models. Yeah. Favorite non-drag race queen?
Ooh, okay. I have said for a long time that Dulce de Leche is my favorite drag queen. I can't say she's my favorite because I have a million favorites, but there is something so special about being in a club and seeing her on stage, the energy that she exudes, her command of a room. She is a huge presence, and I'm not talking about her size. I'm talking about her energy. She takes up the entire space. It is like she's like shooting out laser beams into the crowd. So I love her. I love watching her. I also love, I love Gina La Divina. She is, she worked at Aunt Charlie's for many years. She's a drag elder, let's say. She, and I mean, she's a legend in San Francisco, and she is just like done. Like, one of the last shows I saw in person before COVID was she did a solo show at Oasis. And she's like, I don't know, in her 70s, maybe, something like that. And girl, like, she had a formula for the show. So she would come out in something big and extravagant, right? It would either be she would come out in a thing, she would do a number, and then she'd take off the ruffle coat and she'd be in like a gown, then she would do another number. And then she would sit and she would chat. She would have some cute boy bring out a glass and she'd just, you know, she'd tell a couple jokes, and she'd lounge and she'd flirt with the audience. And then, you know, she'd be like, all right, I'll be back in a few minutes. And then she'd go and she would come out and like, I aspire to be her when I'm older. She was telling me she has, I forget the number, but she has a look for every song that she performs. And she doesn't wear the same thing for 2 numbers.
Wow.
And even to the point of she'll be like, oh, I don't do that song anymore. I got rid of that dress. Like, and her shit is detailed. I have a couple of hand-me-downs from her that are the most extravagant things I own. So I want to be.
I could see that being you. I can see that. I want to be her up. Drag tip for the everyday woman.
Ooh. Well. I mean, of course, my mind goes to like getting made up and getting dressed up. Of course, that doesn't make a woman, but I mean, a tip from drag is just that, you know, to feel your fantasy, you know, to build yourself up, to, you know, feel free to like have an image in your mind and be it. Yeah.
Yes. Favorite song to lip sync to? And I know that might change over time, but maybe current one.
Well, what I loved, another thing I loved about working at Charlie's, I did the weekend show, again, with most of the old drag queens. I love old drag queens. It was like, most people there had a set. Like it was 4 numbers in a night. And most people would have like, they would do the same 4 songs, or they would rotate through a few. So I really like worked on my numbers there. And of course, there's a few favorites, but my like go-to favorite song to lip sync is "Cry Baby" by Janis Joplin.
Nice. And then the last question: best tip or gift you've received from a fan? Tip as in like.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, these online shows aren't always making a lot of money, but sometimes you get that rare gig. So, I did a private party over Zoom for a tech company. It was a local company. I forget the name of it, but they make games.
Okay.
And it was me, Cash, and GLP in our living room doing like 2 or 3 numbers each in an hour. And it was tech people that have been sitting at home for months and they're still making the same amount of money. And they were drinking and they were bored. And girl, people were sending $200 tips, $300 tips. And we had it all go to my accounts, just so there was like one place and split it up at the end. And so I'm going through and I had like tallied up the Venmo, tallied up the Cash App. I went to my PayPal and there was a tip for $1,000.
Wow.
So between the like base pay that we got for the gig, which was like pennies compared to the tips, we each got paid like $100 or something. Between that and the tips split among us, we each of us made $1,000 total in an hour. So that was a gag. But other than that, the biggest tip I've gotten a $100 bill twice. One was from my friend Gina because she was just balling that night and she felt like it. And the other one, I have to tell the story because I love it. It was from Beverly Chills. It was an empty night at Aunt Charlie's. She came in late, drunk with some other friend. I forget who she was with. And I like make my way to the back of the room. I see Bev, middle of the number, kiss, kiss, hi, la, la, la. And she's like, drunk. I could see that she's gone. And she's like, and gives me $100 bill. And I take it and I'm like, sure, Bev. I take it, I put it in my bra, I go backstage. And the next morning I Venmo'd her $100 because I was like, girl, I know you need
so
this.
Nice. You're so nice.
I was like, there's no way.
Wow, I love it. Yeah, I must say, like, one of the things that I was really happy about getting a job again in tech is that it allowed me to start supporting my drag sisters again.
Yeah, which we love, by the way. Like, I mean, not just like money wise, but like you have been such a huge supporter of our channel. You're like always in the chat. You're always being so supportive. I really appreciate it. And we do still have to get you on Girl Talk. I'm going to say tentatively, let's have you next week.
Yeah, that's what Sissy said.
The girls. Because I don't think we have anybody booked. So I'll just double check they haven't already like set somebody, but I'm going to say for me, let's have you next week.
Yeah, perfect. That's what Sissy mentioned. And if you can lock it in, that'd be great.
Yeah. Great. If she said it, then we're done.
Yes. Well, then this is when we get to the end of this silly little show. Where can the children and the grown-ups and the puppies and the kitties find you on the social medias?
So don't add me on Facebook. I won't respond. I don't do anything on there. I don't care. But Instagram at It's Mary Vice. The It's is part of it. So at It's Mary Vice. And the same on Twitter. Nice. And the same on Venmo.
There she goes. Send the doll a tip. Well, you can find me on Twitter, Mimi Cherry. If you add an IG to the end of it, that's where you will find me on Instagram. You are listening to this. This is a series of Fortunate Events, the podcast. And we are now in video. You are probably hearing this first in audio because the audio stream comes first. But then look up Mimi Cherry on YouTube. Subscribe. Hit the
I look
like
really good.
button.
You're going to rewatch the video. Rewatch the episode.
Yes. Hit the like button, hit the bell, do all those YouTube things. It's still very much a baby channel. It would be an amazing goal for 2020 into 2021 to become a YouTube partner. So help your girl out. And with that, we say...
Oh, and go to twitch.tv/CashMonetDrag. twitch.tv/CashMonetDrag. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I always say it like 3 times. But follow the channel. We do a drag show every Monday night. We do a talk show every Friday afternoon. Cash does other streams throughout the week. It's a lot of fun.
Well, it is a good habit. My mom taught me when I was really young, when you're leaving a voicemail, right? In the beginning, you say, hi, my name is such and such. I'm calling for such and such. You can reach me back at such and such number. Again, my name is such and such. And again, that number is such and such. Because remember, back in the day, you couldn't like rewind easily the message. And I think it just sticks better in the brain. But yeah, so this is when we say goodbye. And we'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Bye.
Cherry,